Okay? And then we have orchestral, the orchestral part, of which has a whole bunch of tones. We'll talk about that in a minute. Organ, and we have drum. Now, the word tone is the particular sound. So a particular sound might be alto sax. Fair enough? Okay. Or it might be a particular organ. Fine. And then we have sets. Now, one way to think about sets are that you are buying one accordion here, and now I buy another accordion here. And a set is essentially an accordion. And there may be, as a matter of fact, as you know, there can be a lot of sets. So therefore, this can be a large number of accordions. So that's the way to think about set. Now, the way in which the accordions are set up, particularly, and again, we're going to be talking mostly about the 4x and the 8x here. They are set up so that there are 100 set locations plus one other location, which is called the work area. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, and then we have user programs, and we'll talk about that, and we have banks. So these are the words that we need to make sure when we're talking here that we all understand each other as to what these are. So let's go a little bit further. Let's talk about sets. As I said, there are 100 set slots available. When the accordion comes to you, approximately 60 or some odd are going to be filled with factory sets. So in other words, you right away have 67 accordions. And then there are a group of empty sets. Now, those empty sets, 14 plus 14 plus 14 in a 4x, and 14 plus 28 plus 28 in an 8x. Let me be specific. 14 different reed sets. Okay. 14 or 28 different orchestral sounds. 14 or 28 organs. So once again, the 8x has available, within a set, more available. Okay, the bass is pretty much the same for both instruments. Potentially a set can include 7, 7, and 7. In other words, bass, chord, reed. Okay? And, as well, of course, drums. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. And then within the set, there are certain parameters. So you can tell this set that you want reverb, you can tell this set you want chorus, and you can make this per register or common. And then you can add drums, or not add drums as you want within the set. Okay? And then you can name the set, which you should do, otherwise you get confused. So that's briefly what is in a set. Now, put the set aside for just a minute. Next, we have what we call banks. You can think of banks as going to the library and there's an empty shelf. Now, the shelf doesn't tell you anything, really. There's no information there. It's just a shelf. So you need to put books in that shelf, right? And the books that you put in each bank, or the books that you put in each shelf, are called the user programs. Now, a bookshelf only has so much room. And the bookshelves, or if you wish, the banks, in the accordions that we play, both the 8S and the 4X, are made up of a total of 14 volumes. We can put 14 user programs in any shelf, and that's considered a bank. Now, once again, the bank itself does not have any contained information. All the information is within the individual user program. Now, as it happens, how many shelves do we now have? Well, if you have a 4X, you have, everybody? 7. Okay. If you have an 8X, you have, I'm sorry? 100. So that means that potentially within the accordion, you can have either 98 or 100, or 1,400 user programs. I don't know anybody that's gotten much higher than 90, but anyway. but the answer is there is room. And those of you that feel constrained because you have a 4X, you certainly can hold additional user programs on your USB, and you can move them in any time you want. So you have the list of all your tones. And when you look up the tones, you'll find out that an individual tone can be controlled by velocity, if you wish, by the keyboard, or by the bellows.
I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. So let me give you an example. I'm sorry, Bob. Let me give you an example. In practicality, that's why we all have our stuff here. So this thing here hangs on my music stand where I play in my house. Okay? From the first day. It says, it's for a 4X, but it says user program list, and it's on, just because I'm kind of anal, it says set list, it says organ tone list, it says orchestra tone list, which are all your orchestra sounds, it says here reed combinations, and they're the things that matter to me that I want instantly, and I'm a paper guy in a lot of ways, and it hangs there all the time. So the things that he's talking about, you want at your disposal. I also want to add for 1 sec, because I like what Ian is doing, but I never got a chance to introduce from the beginning, so I want to just give you a quick idea of what's happening here, okay? This is likely the one of the most popular programs that there is. And on all of you filled out questionnaires for me, and I can tell you on every single questionnaire,
you need. And in other words, how you hit the keyboard, like a piano, and they can be combined with both. You cannot edit that. So in other words, you can't say, I really would like the piano to respond to bellows. We do not have that editing ability. And that's again why you need the tone list to find out what that is. Of air on that, on the accordion. Yes, there's a button so you can collapse the bellows, but everything is entirely electronic. The resistance is dependent upon the number of keys that you press. Electronically it does this. But if you don't like that, you can set the 8X so that the resistance is at a stable value. So some people don't like the fact that the more keys you play, the more the bellows move. So you can defeat that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's what an acoustic is. That's correct. In other words, the point of the 8X by having this bellows control, electronic bellows control, or regulator, was to make it so the more notes you press, X into 3 zones, one of which can be drums. And then we need to talk about some things that you can do with the bass. Are you familiar with the fact that you can have 6-note guitar chords instead of the 3 notes that are typical for the stradella? Now that is a problem if you play jazz chords, because there are too many notes there. But again, we can talk about the advantages and disadvantages of that. And then there are what we call cycle chord inversions. And that is that there will be, I think there are 11 different inversions. So each time you press the chord, it gives you a different inversion. And it cycles through that. Again, very interesting. We can talk about that, but not now. Okay, let's just, I don't have enough time to talk to you about the different ways of playing the accordion on the fly. There are advantages of playing in set mode versus user program mode. This is a whole area that we can talk about. Don't have time to do here at this point, so we'll do that. We need to talk about editing of the tones. We can hopefully have some practice doing that. We need to talk about registers, which are different on a Roland versus an acoustic. Warning to you, if you take a register on this accordion and you hold that register, what happens? What happens? If you hold a register, it turns the tone off. Okay? Now how do you turn the tone back on again?
Hold it again.
Either you press it again quickly or press some other one. You need, if you don't know this, this is going to get you in trouble at some point. Okay. And the other thing to understand about registers that are different than an acoustic is, let's say we're playing something, we're holding some notes, and I reach up and I press a register. Now, if this was an acoustic accordion, what would happen?
Change automatically.
What happens on a Roland?
The next note.
The next note. Does everybody follow that? I'll start that again. On acoustic, if you're playing a note and you change a register, what happens to the note?
Changes immediately.
Changes immediately, right?
On acoustic.
It has to. Okay. On a Roland, if you do this and you press the register, what happens to that note right now? Stays the same. It doesn't change until I press that or another note.
Next note.
Okay, so you have to get used to the fact that these are... Okay, okay, so there's a lot we can say about registers and about all of this. We must spend a lot of time to say that any edits you make are going to disappear